some new programming. My wife has panic attacks. Anyone here have panic attacks? Awesome. What an opportunity. So panic attacks are a ratio of 3 to 1. Traditionally, and my wife has the feeling when she has a panic attack, she figuratively feels, that leads to a literal feeling that she's going to die. Anyone relate with that? So when this happens through our training, that we've been doing this work for over 12 years, that she'll let me know this is going on, whether in person or by phone, and when I'm very aware and present, to have developed this skill through repetition, that I'll ask her, would you like me to listen or would you like me to help you work through this? And she most likely, most commonly say, yes, I want to not feel like I'm going to die. And so I said, okay, what are you thinking about? Every time, it's 3 things. 3 things that she is focused on: negative drawbacks, pain, one-sided. In a 3 to 1 ratio, this is a panic attack. This is an anxiety attack. I'll ask her, write those down. She writes them down. Very easy. They're very clear to her. They're bringing on this feeling. Then I'll ask her, one by one, what is the equal benefit to number 1? She'll write it down. What is the benefit to number 2 happening? She'll write it down. She'll write number 3 down. And at that moment, she will weep. And she will go from a panic attack or anxiety, from over here on the negative, by getting the balance and equal, positive, and right into love and gratitude. And it's gone in a moment. Bipolar is an 8 to 1 ratio. 8 negatives to 1 positive is depression. 8 benefits or positives to 1 negative is manic. We are all bipolar at times. We all are manic and we're all depressed at times. 8 to 1 ratio. And you can move into a place of love and gratitude in a moment with getting clear and being aware of what it is that you're focused on that is a mismanaged, out of balance perspective. And if I haven't pushed your buttons yet, I will go deeper on this. Schizophrenia is a 15 to 1 ratio. 15 to 1. 15 negatives to 1 positive. 15 positives to 1 negative. Multiple personality disorder, 21 to 1. Out of balance. When we were pregnant for our second time, back in early 2017, in the same very room, Casey and I were in the back there, faced this way. We were doing our Success Summit. We had a series of events that led us from the UVCC to right here in the Innovation Center, where we were doing the Success Summit. We used to do a Success Summit in January and July. Now we do a kickoff in January and a summit in July. And we were on the very first speaker of this event. My wife had an appointment. We were into our 16th week of the pregnancy with our son Holden. And she had an appointment with the doctor that to determine the sex and, the time and everything. We were actually a few weeks off with whether we were late. This is when it was scheduled. And because of our second pregnancy, I was here and she was there. And it's like, okay, you never do that with the first pregnancy, right? You don't miss it. But it's the second kid. Not a big deal. So I'm saying my intuition, I haven't heard from my wife, and it's now, like 5, 6 p.m. Here, we were living in LA at the time, and I hadn't heard from her. My intuition was like, I need to call my wife. I step outside those doors, and I call my wife. She texts me and she says, let's talk after your event. So I call again. She answers, and she is incredibly emotional, like I've never heard her. And she tells me that our son has no kidneys, and he has a deformed heart, and he's missing a portion of his arm. She and I's genes came together at that time in a way that Holden would never create amniotic fluid. Immediately filled with little anger, frustration, deep sadness. And I walked in and told Casey I'd call her from the car, tell her why, but I was going to the airport. On the way to the airport, I did get pulled over. Thankfully, the policeman let me go, understand the situation. And I knew because of this work that if I got home, based on the principle of reflection, if I got home and I saw my wife in the exact same state that I was in, we would have conflict. Because I would be seeing my reflection that I didn't like, and I would persecute that reflection. Thankfully, I'd had 6 years of this work that this has become a daily practice for me. And I knew that on that plane, I had to collapse the situation by writing down a list of all of the challenges, all of the drawbacks, all of the negatives of the situation. And then shift from that perspective, I had to get clear on the equal opposite positives, advantages, benefits of my son being terminal. My wife told me that we were going to have to wait about 6 weeks of her continuing to carry Holden before we could actually do something about it to confirm and to confirm and to confirm. Easy to write down the drawbacks and the challenges, right? Would you agree? Easy, clear, bam, right there. And there were between 15 and 20 of them I immediately found. And then I knew through my training to get into a place of love and gratitude that I must be very clear on the equal opposites, so that I could walk in to my wife when I got home and have her in the palm of my hand and love her and let her be where she was meant to be at that time, which is what happened. I was able to find that by asking the questions. I know that there are even more extreme experiences that this room has in their lives. I believe with absolute certainty and validated through science for me and my belief structure that those, as well as every example I could give you in my life, are on the way. They're perfect. They're exactly what was meant to happen for you, me, us, to do what we're meant to do and be who we're meant to be. My wife, when I first I set that goal to meet my wife, and then was challenged to meet her in 24 hours. KC Council was one of those coaches and part of that challenging. What an opportunity! I met my wife, and I was with Sandy Tillotson at her house overlooking the garden, and she said, "Okay, so I heard you met your wife." She helped me set that goal, and she said, "You're really manic. You're like floating right now. You are not grounded." She said, "If you don't get back," because I'm over here manic, right? At least 8 to 1. She said, "If you don't ground yourself and get back into balance, the universe, nature will ground you." I didn't ground myself. I didn't know how to at that time. This is about 14 and a half years ago. And sure enough, bam. Thankfully, I had that conversation with Sandy. She said, if you don't ground yourself, when it appears, when the exact opposite energetically appears, that you don't go all the way over here to depression, that you do the work to be in love and gratitude for everything that happens, because it's perfection. So we can either ground ourselves, or we are grounded by the universe to stay on path. Law of sacrifice. Let's just say that this is you. This is me. And we desire something bigger, better, more. We desire a greater return than what we currently have. It requires us, in order to achieve that growth, that we must also go through equal growth in resistance. You'd probably be surprised by this, but I like to work out. And I spend a lot of time in the gym. In order for me to be in better shape every day of my life, and to be in better shape every decade of my life than the decade before, it requires me to achieve that reward, to put my body through a greater amount of resistance. This is why you will never see me on a cardio machine. You will never see me doing the elliptical. You will only see me doing resistance training at a level I keep my heart rate up, but to put my muscles under stress. If you're driving in the snow, what gives you better traction? Carrying a heavier load gives you more traction. So, how many of you set goals that were bigger than what you achieved last year? I did. And literally in November, those goals that I set while I was sitting with Nathan, that he was saying in some of our investment strategies, I was like, Nate, what are we going to do? We don't have a fund this year. He's like, I got you. So I set a goal with that. And then Nate went to heaven. And I was like, oh, okay. Now what do I do? In more ways than one. Yet there is resistance met the moment that you set a goal. The moment that I set a goal, the universe immediately aligns resistance and obstacles and challenge for us to grow, to achieve. It is impossible to achieve something without the change. Now, let's say that how many of you are going through massive challenge And you're going, geez, I have not seen the reward. And you may be going through that resistance, and you may be in breakdown before you can have a breakthrough. So you may get the resistance first, or you may get the reward first, and the resistance is going to follow. Yet the universe is always in balance. It's always in flow. Back and forth. Back and forth. As the illustration on the side screens is demonstrating. Forgiveness. How many are looking for forgiveness from someone? Show your hands. Someone you would like to forgive you. Raise your hands high. Why am I asking you to raise your hands high? Kenton, why do we ask people to raise their hands high? So we can wake you up. But also that everyone around you can see that they're not alone. Yeah. How many of you have someone in your life that you would like for them to forgive you? Roz Hobbs, where are you? Stand up, Roz. Roz, will you forgive me? How many of you have someone that you have to forgive? That wronged you. Okay, you're not going to like me. Forgiveness doesn't land here, guys. It doesn't work here. Forgiveness is not love and gratitude. Forgiveness is one-sided. Forgiveness is believing that there is only a negative. For needing to be forgiven or looking for someone to forgive you is a belief, a perspective, a choice that there is no benefit to what happened. I'm confident that that's different than what any of you have been told, with the exception of a few that have been trained this. Don't forgive someone for doing something that you didn't like. Physical, emotional, psychological. Find the benefit. Find how it served you. Find how it was exactly what was necessary for you to be here today, right where you are meant to be. I want you to notice that I did not use the word should. I choose my words very specifically. Should is a hammer. We use it on ourselves and others. I said, everything in your life that has happened, whether you perceive it good or bad, is perfect. And that is a choice. Rule number 1 of the game of 3 rules. Rule number 1, choosing to believe that the past is perfect. Choice. Perspective. Nick talking about values. How are our values determined? How are the hierarchy of our values determined? Through the perceived voids we believe we have. Our deepest wounds become our greatest gifts. That in which we perceive to be absent, a void, is thus what we seek to fill. The love language that we perceive that we have the least amount of the five becomes our strongest love language that we seek. Our values change because as we fill these voids, they're no longer a void. They're no longer perceived to be absence. I joined this business to fill the void that I had, the fear that I had of losing my lifestyle that required a specific amount of money to live. I didn't love the money, I loved the lifestyle. And I found this as a solution. If I was willing to do the work on the business, on myself, then I thus would be able to fill that void that through the lens that I was looking at the time was absent. As that void was filled, new voids surfaced. And that is why we continue to do the values assessment to see what's changing. And thus, in the future, we may train you and teach you how to actively and specifically, intentionally raise the value of something and also to degrade the value of another. Those wounds that you believe you have make a list on all those drawbacks. 10, 20, 30, however many they are. And then you make an equal and opposite list in number. It doesn't have to be the opposite of the drawbacks or the negatives. It's an equal opposite number. So if you have 10, you have 10. You will know when you're in a place of love and gratitude when what? What did I say my wife would do when I had helped collapse her anxiety or panic attack? She would cry. Cry with tears of joy and gratitude and love. My goal for you, as you see this as we go into benefits, is that as you see the sound wave in the distance that it is at the bottom, in this human perspective, this fundamentalist perspective, is that the more often you do this work, this collapse as we call it, and this is Dr. John DeMartini's work that I've done with him as a mentor for the last 12 plus years, that as we develop the skill, and how do we develop a skill? What is the mother of all skill? Repetition. This is a muscle that must be flexed. If you leave here today and you never do it again, guess what? You're going to stay in that bipolar world. And you know what? Just go to the doctor and just get some meds. And so you can just be like this all the time. Don't feel anything. No highs, no lows. Just be like this. Numb to the world. If you do this work and you flex this muscle, every single time that you recognize that you're manic or you're depressed, that you are elated or you are in a hole, that you write down what is on your mind, what are you focused on, what are you thinking about, and then write down the equal and opposite, and you will go from here to here, that fast. What will happen in that moment of gratitude and love is you will increase your vibration, you will increase your frequency, you will increase your energy to another level, to where what's going to happen next? Another opportunity where you will be met with manic or depression, where once again you make another list and you get the balance and you get back into love and gratitude. And this is about developing the skill to do it over and over and over and over. Today, when I'm aware, then I immediately go to the opposite and get clear on that so I get back in love and gratitude immediately. Yesterday, and the day before, I had 3 or 4 moments, those that I was having some challenge, that I perceived some challenges, that I was not in a place of love and gratitude. My inner truck driver came out. Those of you that are present, I didn't speak so fondly. It was an opportunity for me to get back into love and gratitude and to do the work. And as soon as I did, I'm back and centered. Thankfully, I'm surrounded by some amazing individuals that know this work, that help me bring it back when I wasn't being aware. But the more that you flex this muscle, the higher you're going to raise your vibration, your frequency, and your energy, and thus you will attract the equal and opposite. You will attract who we are, and you will attract the challenges and equal support, because maximum growth occurs at the intersection and border of that challenge. So, let's go back to those challenges. Let's put you back in work. Enough talking for Charlie. Time to go to do the work. And you're going to see in front of you, you have a page that says challenges and benefits. And I want you to go, let's start back up with the relationships, what you have there, that person that you wrote down. What is the benefit? Now, I'm gonna go into something that Nick said it for you guys to help you, okay? To help you, because how many of you were challenged with when I was telling you the story of my son Holden? You're going, how did you create benefits? How many of you were like really searching? Okay, and I know there's a lot of women and men that have gone here that have gone through that exact same situation. It is incredibly common. Yet, if we had not had that situation with Holden, we would not have Quinn and Hemi and Sonny and Jagger. Without that happening, I would not have the 4 children that I have that were born on their older sister's birthday. They give me the greatest challenge I've ever had in my life. We are meaning-making machines. Nothing has meaning until we give it meaning, and we give everything meaning. So what did I do? You guys, the drawbacks, the negatives, all of those things are made up. We make them up. And thus, the benefits, we make them up. There's no right or wrong. It just is. I don't care what you write it down. I don't care what you find as the benefit. No judgment. Get it down, get it out so you can get to love and gratitude. And so when you're going, gosh, how am I going to get this relationship that I have written down that I find is from the past, somebody that wronged you, that you want to you want them to forgive you. How many of you is something you wrote down that you just want them to forgive you? They did something wrong to you. How many have somebody's name down for that for your relationships? So what's the benefit of them, what they did? Would you be today, right here, without them doing what they did? No, you would not be who you are. You wouldn't be this version. So what's the benefit? This is when you write it down. This is when you cry and you thank that person for whatever they did, whatever they're doing. Because what happened or what is happening is you are getting stronger. It's like you just went to the gym with that person and that 50-pound weight you're putting up, man. As you fulfill that, go on to the next. As you get into new skin, what the challenge you wrote down, how are they perfect? How they are exactly what must happen for you to achieve the goal, the pin title, the success trip, the income. How is it perfect? I guarantee you it's what the rest of us have already gone through. If you're not where we are and you're on the way, we already went through it. That Jeff went through that yesterday, the feelings. That's what the panels are about. Relating, understanding. I'm going to tell you about the 95% that quit. You know why they quit? This is my perspective. It's a story I write. They're not aware that we all go through the same stuff. In the beginning, I looked at Kenton and went, oh my gosh, that guy, it's so easy for him. He doesn't know what I do, what my challenges are. Knowing him as well as I do, that guy has greater success in business and New Skin than I do because he's gone through more. Challenge, not less, more. Financial. What's the benefit? What is the lesson you're learning right now? With those challenges that you're going through your finances that you must learn in order for you to have abundance, for you to achieve what you want financially. Do you know that we repeat the same lessons? I repeat the same challenges over and over and over and over and over and over and over until I learn what was meant to be learned. And then it goes away. Physical. Nick Weinecker looks way better than the last time I saw him. Healthier. I was starting to really worry about one of my best friends on the planet. It was going from a six-pack to a keg. Spiritual. How are those challenges exactly what's meant to happen? How are they perfect? How are they on the way? As Jeff Silsman likes to say, cancer hasn't been happening to him, it's been happening for him. Don't ask for life to be easier. Please. Don't ask for the challenges to go away. Know that they must happen. Have a knowing that when you're met with those challenges, that they're on the way, they're perfect, they're exactly what's meant to happen for you to achieve what you are getting a divine calling for. As we move on through the rest of the day, I ask you to continue to be present, continue to be silent during these exercises, inside and out this room. This work has changed my life, and I saw immediate, in the moment change from doing this over and over and over. I know that there are people in this room that today they will have a change in the rest of their life beginning now, because I have experienced it. And I have worked with people that have done the same thing, and this front row is sitting with people that are willing to do the work and just keep showing up so that you show up. Thank you.